Okay, fine guys. So this is a very simple video, and in this video I'll be explaining about the boundaries of the third ventricle. So starting off with the anterior wall, anteriorly we have lamina terminalis, and there's an anterior commissure which is being formed, and also we say that there is optic chiasm. Now, what is optic chiasma? I'll be discussing that here. So basically what really happens is that the optic nerve, they kind of cross over, and this optic nerve goes over to the left side, and Yevali Jyotia, it goes over here, and it kind of encircles the entire hypothalamus, which is shown in yellow. So this is optic nerve, then this is the optic chiasma, this is the optic tract. So anterior to the third ventricle, which is this, we have the optic chiasma present, okay? And we also have the anterior commissure. So we're done with the anterior wall boundaries. Next, coming forward, we're going to discuss the posterior wall. So the posterior wall is formed. What really happens is that we have the third ventricle, which is shown in blue, sky blue color. So what really happens is that exactly on the top corners of the third ventricle here, a better diagram would be this one. So here on the top, on the corners, we have the nucleus, and that nucleus is known as habenular nucleus. And in between these two habenular nucleus, they are connected with white matter, and that white matter is known as, which forms a commissure, and we call it, well, apologies for the noise because there is construction being done. So yeah, sorry for that, please excuse me. So the habenular nucleus, it's fine now. So the habenular nucleus is being connected with a commissure. That's the habenular commissure, okay? So behind this, here on the posterior surface, we have a gland, and we call it the pineal gland, which is present behind the third ventricle. All right, so we're done with this. And then also like exactly behind the midbrain, we have a nucleus, which is the pretectal nucleus. The pretectal nucleus forms the posterior commissure, and this structure, the posterior commissure, is also present behind the third ventricle. So we're done with the anterior wall and we're done with the posterior wall. So yeah. So the posteriorly we have the habenular commissure, the pineal body, and below the pineal body there is a recess, we call it the pineal recess, and we are also done with the posterior commissure. Now talking of the things that are present laterally. So laterally we have a very big kind of masses, and they are known as thalamus. So, and both the thalamus, they're connected with each other through the interthalamic adhesion. So interthalamic adhesion is also present laterally. And lateral to the ventricles, we have, as you all can see, there are masses of thalamus. So thalamus, interthalamic adhesion, and also exactly surrounding the thalamus, you have some kind of you can say of white fibers, and we call them the stria medullaric thalami. And we all know that the third ventricle is kinesia. This area is called the midbrain, and once the midbrain is finished, the rest of the third ventricle is surrounded by hypothalamus. All right, so anterior wall done, lateral wall done, posterior wall done. Now we're going to talk about the superior and the inferior wall. Imagine this third ventricle, it's this one, okay? So on top of the third ventricle, there's a layer of ependyma, and we also have a fold, tila chorioida. Tila chorioida is basically a fold of the pia mater, and in this is present the choroid plexus. And when we talk about the choroid plexus of the third ventricle, so it has a artery, which is the medial posterior choroidal artery, and this artery, the medial posterior choroidal artery, is branch of the posterior cerebral artery. All right, another thing that I had to talk about was this, that ahead of the on top of the tila chorioida, we also has fornix, and also there is corpus callosum. And when talking about the posterior, the inferior wall, it's formed by the tuber cinereum and the infundibulum, and there are the glands, the pituitary gland, the anterior and the posterior pituitary gland, and then we have two masses, they're known as the mammillary bodies. So guys, we're done with the relations of the third ventricle, and this was just a 4 or 5 minute long video. That's it.